Aloha. Today I wanted to do a video in reference to the Westworld TV show or series on HBO and relate it to the basic design or setup of the flat Earth heliocentric deception, the human experience as a whole, and how we are conditioned to basically de-evolve our experience into a submissive, codependent, ignorant, and basically an animalistic state of experience that has nothing to do with even interpreting the human experience at all, but basically just limiting ourselves to whatever the program has designed for us to believe within. And as long as we are believing within that system, we don't question our reality, and in fact we start to defend that reality. So this watching Westworld, I only watched like the first two episodes and then like half of the third one. And for one, it's obviously there's so many different things that are tied into these shows when they make these shows. It's never just a one thing that's being sold to your conscious and your subconscious and your children, because your children, just as much as your children, are being manipulated to believe themselves into a reality that's based upon a heliocentric perspective, with Sesame Street, with TV shows, the Muppet Babies, all these space, all the NASA programming that's geared towards children. Your adult conscious and subconscious reality is also being manipulated every day. And for this video, what I wanted to reference are some of the manipulative programs that are used that are mostly obvious, are the political programs that make their moves and their decisions for humanity based upon triggering the emotional body and programming the emotional body and reactions of the masses. And this is basically the infrastructure of the way the Western civilization conducts its business to maintain power. And that's what this whole system is based upon. See, people who get really consumed with trying to debunk flat Earth and trying to debunk people just questioning the mainstream narrative really are missing the bigger picture of the ability to question the mainstream narrative is founded in power. It's not founded in being right. It's founded in the empowerment of the self. Because the system the system is designed to create an entire world for you that's based upon maintaining power. It's not about the money. It's not about the Zionists. Those are microcosms of the macrocosm of giving your power away, your life force energy away, the power of your soul, the power of your mind, and the power of your body. We don't even know or understand the basic, even the basic capabilities of this human vessel, this human experience, the physical reality. This is why the system cannot tell you any information based upon how the pyramids were built, how stones like in Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman in Peru, and how they were laser cut, how all of this technology that was centuries before Western civilization even came into being, how all this stuff was in existence. Because once you start to reveal that information, you're getting into a space of giving power to the people who predate Western civilization, which is so worshipped today. So this is the essence of why, excuse me, why the heliocentric model is so locked into the evolution theory, and the evolution theory being based upon their fact that time is what dictates consciousness. And that's a very simplistic and linear perspective on consciousness and the experience as a whole. We don't really, that's based upon you calling, or the system calling, the indigenous and the aboriginal people primitive and savage. So that not only keeps those individuals in a box of a lack of evolution, but it keeps the people and the control grid of today in a higher state of consciousness, in a higher state of existence that maintains power over you. So anything of today is better than anything of yesterday. And that's just where the story ends. This is why this flat earth storyline is so complex, and it's so important to really go into the depths of and question yourself and question things as a free thinker, because it's not about, being right. A lot of people who try to debunk or try to, they're either trying to cover themselves as individuals, or like their cult-like following, or they're paid to do whatever it is they're doing, or they're just so caught up within their own individualistic perspective of reality that they're not allowing themselves to challenge the way they think. This is what's happening when you really go into questioning the heliocentric model and go into the flat earth storyline. Is you're questioning your existence, this entire existence, the physical reality and the non-physical reality, the connection to your soul, the connection that your physical experience has to the soul, the connection that your physical mind has with the higher mind, and the connection that your physical body has with the non-physical parts of the body. Like emotion is a non-physical thing that's being affected by physical engagement. So back into the way that this is programmed, the relationship with the physical and the non-physical, the so-called powers that be know this alchemy. The mainstream media is an alchemy. The public education system, politics, when they're speaking to you, when they're conducting these false flags, when they're making you send your children to war, when they're raising your children to watch G.I. Joe every morning before they go to school, and then end up going into the army right after they graduate, when they're sending, when the majority of food in the low income areas is genetically modified and just sick and diseased. This is all an alchemy. When the majority of people, children, kids that are in the military are from low income areas. This is for a reason. This is how the haves and the have-nots program continues to expand, and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And it's not about the intricacies of the microcosm like money and the politics itself. It always boils down to power. And when you expand it out as far as you can go into realizing that it's mostly about power and less about the way the power comes to be, not to take away from the way the power comes to be, because in order to realize how deep the power goes, you have to understand the way the power comes to be. But people who are going into the information of flat earth have already pretty much deciphered a number of the ways this power comes to be. So it is your responsibility to, if you choose it, because people can look at this stuff and then look at the other way and say, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I have to do. Like, if you have responsibilities like children or whatever and you have to go to work, there's nothing wrong with that. Do what you have to do. At the same time, your actions are being reflective of the whole. They affect your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren and your brothers and sisters that have yet to be born here. So all of this stuff matters. So when people say, "Oh well, flat or round, what does it really matter?" Well, it matters that your future generations will be enslaved by illusions. This program is not designed to be revealed. It's designed to maintain illusions, to literally create your entire world. And in order to create your world, they have to sell you the reverse of the experience. So, if they're telling you that technology is the evolution of your experience and it's the best thing in the world and we need to focus all our energy and stuff like illusion and climate change, we already realize that if you just realize that the illusion is based upon maintaining control, then you can see that those mainstream dialogues are meant to sell a story that represents a future storyline that maintains power for the power grid of today. And in order to break that system, you have to question the reality as a whole. And the most difficult way to question that reality is to break that reality out of the internal space that you think you are. That's the hardest thing to do, is to change yourself. Even to entertain the idea that the earth might not be a globe is something that is based upon you challenging yourself, you challenging the way that you experience your reality as a whole. And once you get into that, that's pretty much like opening the rabbit hole. That's like going down the rabbit hole. And then how the velocity of how you go down that rabbit hole, the efficiency of how you go down that rabbit hole is completely based upon the individual. And if you stop halfway or a quarter of a way through, then you're going to miss a lot of the programs. And that's usually what people do, is stop and go, stop and go, stop and go, because if you're constantly going, you'll get overloaded, and if you just stop, then you're going to be bombarded by the illusion. And that's how your world gets created. So this is where the Alex Jones, TYT, conspiracy theorists, and all these debunkers, they make their money off of people who do not challenge themselves to go as far as they can go into questioning their reality, and get people hung up in a cult-like following or a particular version of reality, like the InfoWars, focusing on Donald Trump and the globalists and the Americana, never going into the indigenous and the Aboriginal story. Different than our Eric Debay, only talking about the Zionists, and everything is about the Zionists. And that's not, like I said in previous videos, this is not to take away from all of the other work that people like Eric Debay and even Alex Jones have done, but just to see how this program works. And it's not to say that these individuals are paid to do whatever it is that they're doing. I'm not concerned with that stuff. That there's people out there paid to do whatever it is that they're doing, and there's people who are not paid to do whatever it is that they're doing. The thing that matters is you thinking for yourself and questioning your reality to the umpteenth degree to yourself, and being able to discern for yourself. Because there's always going to be people that are out there to manipulate the way that you think, the way that you experience your reality. And as long as you get hung up in the busy work of trying to determine who's who and what's what, you're going to be wasting your time. The information is what matters, and the way you discern if that experience, the way that experience exists, is to challenge your ability to discern for yourself, and to challenge your ability to go as deep as you can go into the unveiling of basically yourself, the way you think, the way you are. It's challenging yourself to go further and further out of the follow mode and go into a leader, to lead yourself. That's what a free thinker is. You don't have to lead people. to be a leader. You just have to lead yourself, and then people will follow on their own, in their own way. That's what a leader actually does. A leader is an individual who actually produces more leaders. A leader is not an individual who has a lot of people, fluffing their feathers or following them around and making sure that they look a certain way and defending them. That's not what a leader is. A leader actually creates more leaders, or at least the foundation for other individuals to make leaders out of themselves. And this system is designed to create followers that are vibrating in a low vibration of fear and codependency, so you can maintain a sheeple, so you can be shepherded by the shepherds into an energy producing factory, or shepherded right off a cliff, whatever is beneficial for the system. You see how they destroy leaders. They take people out and they install distraction. They install these activists, these musicians, these conspiracy theorist sort of mentalities, these Neil deGrasse Tysons, these Bill Nyes. All these people are prepositioned to create your reality for you. No different than the Westworld. So in this whole program, this world that has been invented, you see people falling into the programs as they are designed. And over time, and that's the microcosm. As the macrocosm, over time, the system is de-evolving. So if you are being told that you are evolving by getting closer to technology and hopefully one day merge with technology, that's actually a de-evolution program, because you're not tapping into the depths of what the organic human experience actually is, what your energy centers actually are, and what you can do with that, and what the ancestors were already tapped into. You're not going to be able to go or do anything in the present moment or in the future if you don't know what has led up to today, if you don't understand your history and your ancestors. So this story, this is why the Columbian era story, why the new world order, the Western civilization, it makes its money off of looking the other way from the historical information, actually burning books, burning information, all the books that were burned in the libraries, Alexandria, the Mayan books that were burned. A lot of that stuff was not only burned, but it was actually taken and studied for themselves, so they can realize, the so-called powers that be, excuse me, so they can go into realizing what this experience is actually made up of, and then selling it back to us in a way that affects us subconsciously, and then we activate it as a conscious part of our reality. So this is why you're separated from your dreams, and this is even referenced in the Westworld series. Excuse me. A lot of the reasons why these robots are triggering out of the way they're programmed is because they're having glitches in their reality, that some of them are having dreams, and those dreams are affecting the design of the program that they are programmed to do in that world. So when those conflicts happen, then they start to, it's just one thing leads to the next. So in order to get to understanding the nonlinear reality, their soul, or the soul, you have to take one step at a time. So one story leads to the next, one linear program leads to the next, and then one door opens another door to the next. And each time you have to put energy into opening those doors. That's where you're changing yourself, and that's the hardest thing, because The system is based upon being a part of the world. And the more you change, the less you are a part of the synthetic world. This is why it's so difficult to even speak to people about the flat earth. They literally will shut down or have nothing to say because you are challenging the very nature of the individual themselves. And that's the most difficult thing to do. You're cutting the legs out or taking the foundation out of their experience, and then you're shifting you're creating an environment where the individual can actually shift themselves or shift their experience or their perspective of reality. And in order to do that, the individual themselves has to be ready to do that. Not everybody is ready to do that. So a lot of the defense mechanisms that keep people from doing that are distraction, being enveloped by the physical reality, being locked into continual it's like being bombarded by linear programs from a non-linear perspective. So the way that the alchemy is designed is sold to you non-linearly, but you're bombarded by so many linear programs that they surround you, and you think that this is everything. This is why the so-called infinite space of the way that the heliocentric universe is sold to you, those are all lines. The linear program of the gravity theory, the linear program of the relativity theory, the Big Bang theory, the evolution theory, the monkey evolution theory to human dinosaurs, fossil fuels. All these are linear theories that have little spikes around them that create a cage around our perception. And we are so bombarded by these cages around our eyeballs that we can't get out of those cages unless we start to handle one at a time. So and that's the thing, most people don't know where to start, because literally it's about changing your world from the inside out, and your world is sold to you from the outside in. And yeah, and the majority, your peer pressure, this is where the peer pressure comes in, the emotional body comes in to maintain that distraction mode. And yeah, so to focus a little more and to close this video out, like I said, some of the ways that trigger us to break these codes is to tap into our dreams, just like in Westworld. So like I said, and I'll do some follow-ups on these too, but even in like Stranger Things does the same thing. It in a different way. So Stranger Things, for people who've seen Stranger Things, that Netflix series, they're selling you the MK Ultra storyline from a nightmare horror story perspective. One thing that it's actually doing is it's dramatizing something that actually exists. The MK Ultra program actually exists. The questioning of dimensions and other worlds, and the possible monsters or whatever, the energies, the destructive intelligences of those other worlds, exist in a way that is not excuse me, dramatized exactly like Stranger Things. But since those programs, those videos exist, anytime somebody brings up those stories, the layperson will automatically default to the Netflix program and say, "Oh, I've seen that before. You're just talking about Stranger Things. That's not really exist. That was just a TV show." So people of today might see that MK Ultra and hear it as a real thing because they've actually done some research. But 10, 20, 30 years from now, that MK Ultra storyline will dissolve into the Stranger Things perspective if we allow it to. And that's the thing. This program is made to distract you from that and to allow these keywords and these trigger words to just sit in your subconscious and exist without you questioning and going any further than that. And you think you're in the know because you think you know a little bit or enough information about what's out there. But that's not the case because you only know what they want you to know. No different than what Google does to the human memory bank and the human consciousness and the experience as a whole. It dumbs you down when you are constantly dependent on, Google search or some kind of whatever technology, whatever it is, social media. It dumbs you down. And over time, over decades, that really affects you and it affects generations further down the line. So, yeah. So just as much as Stranger Things creates a way for you to think about your reality now and in the future, the Google does the same thing because Google is populating certain search results. It's putting out a trending. Google owns YouTube. It puts out information that's trending. So if you see that information is trending by the so-called powers that be, you have to also understand that there's information that they don't want you to know. There's information that they do want you to know, and when they want you to know that information and how that they want you to know that information and perceive that information, then you also have to understand that there's information that they don't want you to know. And there's other ways that you can perceive that perspective that they don't want you to see it that way. And that's where the free thinking comes in, and that's where the power comes in. It's about you giving your power away to individuals who create your world for you, or you start to question the reality as a whole and you experience your reality for yourself. So in reference to the Westworld storyline, there literally all this zombie stuff that's out there. It's about creating zombies out of the organic consciousness. So we're not the bigger program is not it. The bigger program is that the organic nature of reality, the human experience, the basic relationship to nature, is being turned into a robot from the inside out when you download these software programs, these apps, if you will, from the mainstream media, Netflix subconscious programming, HBO subconscious programming, political, emotional body triggering subconscious programming. All of these false flags, all of this stuff is designed to program your experience from the inside out because you're so powerless, so insecure, and so dependent on the system that only the system can provide the medicine for the disease of the system. That's the way it maintains itself, by constantly doubling down on how broken the system is. And since you are completely just powerless and disempowered, then for generations, then the system can just grow around you. And the only way it can grow around you is if you do not grow yourself. If you grow too much, if your consciousness grows too much, you will expand your level of consciousness outside of the control grid, which is what's happening right now when people are questioning the heliocentric model, questioning the government and the politics, questioning the public education system, questioning climate change and everything that we've been sold in our reality over time. This is why things are amping up so much. This is why 9/11 had to amp up so much back in the day. when that all popped off, because that was around the beginning of critical mass time frames of the internet coming into being. So like the internet started to catch its tread when in the mainstream, back when, geez, like it was like America Online and stuff like that. For me, like, I mean, it's probably the same for other people, but so that was like 1993, 94, 95, 96. By the time 96, 97, 98, that's when the internet started to really get, filled with information, and you can see like a window of what the internet was really going to do 10, 20, and 30 years from now. So in order to jump the gun and stifle that questioning of reality, stifle that expansion of consciousness, the emotional body needed to be triggered by the 9/11 terror attack, and then the so-called war on terror, which just pretty much co-opted that information stream of consciousness, which the internet was, and then bombarded that stream of information with the mainstream media, social media, MySpace, and information that is based upon the narrative that benefits the mainstream storyline. So this is where all these like info wars comes into be. Social media shutting down the MySpace and installing the controlled social media of Facebook, and then adjusting the algorithms to sell you stories that are based upon expanding the narrative of the control grid by triggering your emotional body. So this even happens in the Westworld program. So the emotional body pretty much is another doorway to open up your cognitive awareness of the experience itself. Just like dreams are a metaphorical or a subconscious version of expanding your cognitive experience as a whole. And the dream might not mean anything now, but 5-10 years from now it'll mean something completely different. And between now and those 5 or 10 years from now, though, that one dream will affect the way you perceive all of your other dreams. So this is the difference between the linear and the nonlinear. The nonlinear is not based upon how you consciously perceive this experience right now. That's the balance between the masculine and the feminine, the light and the dark, the magnetic and the electric, the lines and the circles. There are the lines and the curves. This is how this dualistic, the organic reality of this dualistic program works. But there's a coding there. There are rules and laws and systems that are in place, that if those rules and laws and systems are broken and pieced back together, and sold back to the consciousness of the masses in a way that creates a system that eats itself, then that's what we are experiencing today. And some of the doorways into there are the way you think, the way you feel, the way you eat, what you drink, the way you act, the way you love, the way you have relationships, the way you have sex, the way you think about your human experience, the way you learn, the way you grow, and that's all over generations upon generations. And this Westworld storyline gets into a lot of that subconsciously, for people who are not even aware, who are just really watching this as like entertainment. It's like, oh, this is just a show. but it's affecting the soul on a subconscious level. It's affecting your dreams. It's affecting the way you think, because it's literally installing a an experience or a perspective of reality into your subconscious. But your consciousness, your conscious reality, is so dumbed down you can't do anything with it. But your subconscious is infinitely processing this information. So anytime there's these false flags that are going on, that's processed into your experience as a whole, and you're either going to empower yourself or you're going to shut down. And since this system is designed to shut people down, they continue to bombard you with emotional body triggers and ways to shut down your dreams, ways to expand the illusion of evolution, which is actually a de-evolution program. So like I said, there's so many different things. I just wanted to give a general outline of Westworld and throw in a little bit of Stranger Things in there, because I haven't been around TV or shows like that, but I just watched the whole Stranger Things series, and I could go into that deeper. I might in the future, but right now I just wanted to give this general basic outline of kind of like what I'll be talking about in the future. And yeah, I've already kind of talked about this stuff before. I'm gonna save some of this stuff for other like live events or other videos with other people in the future. But that's basically it. I just wanted to share the entrance of how I perceive this system, and how this system is designed, and how it literally sells you stuff right in your face, but it's not to your conscious experience. It's being sold to your subconscious. This is your dreams. This is why your dreams are not big in the reality. Your dreams are literally kind of like taboo if you even talk about that stuff. This is why the American dream is called the American dream, because that word is a code. It's an alchemy. It actually has a vibration that affects you on a certain way. So when you say the American dream, you're living the dream, you're living the experience that is pretty much the best thing in your reality, and that's it. And you don't go any further than that. So to close this out, I'll just go over some things that I wrote down, some things that I caught when I was watching Westworld, and just share them real quick with people who have seen that series, so you can kind of see like where I was seeing from. So I'll just go in the order that it is and give a little explanation as I go, if I need it. If not, then I probably already hit. So it's basically, Westworld is basically the dead world. It's zombie land. They're using the idea of robots or technology to sell you that this is, the future of what could be to have an experience with transhumanism, installing consciousness into robotics in order to, like I said, it always boils down to the power. This is in order to bulk up the idea of the all-powerful scientific community. And they have to sell you, just like NASA sells you Mars and going to the moon and all this other stuff. They have to sell you the idea of the all-powerful NASA and university system, and so you can continue to pay your taxes, give your power away, and just vest your entire reality in the way they tell you in what they tell you your reality is based upon. But this is literally the dead world. That's what Westworld is. The Egyptians didn't have a word for death. They called it westing. So West, this is how I'm seeing what Westworld actually represents. So Westworld, the Western civilization, is actually the dead world, the death of the natural civilization that the indigenous and the aboriginal people were connected to. So it's the death of your soul connection and the life of the artificial synthetic reality. So this is what Westworld is actually, how I'm seeing what Westworld actually represents. And as long as you keep watching it as if it's entertainment in your conscious reality, you will never realize what it's being sold to you as in your subconscious reality. And like I said earlier, this is about your children. Your children are going to watch you watch this show. They might not consciously understand what it is. They're picking up information from you and from the show, and how they process the show subconsciously, like the information just being downloaded straight into their dreams, whether it's through social media, movies, cartoons, or your public education system. There was an actual reference to Black Hole Sun in there. They played Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun on the in kind of like a instrumental version of Black Hole Sun in there. So that could be referencing the flat Earth realm. The Westworld itself is a dome that's being watched over by, or a flat world, Westworld, being watched over by the Watchers. They're obviously selling you the evolution program. This is all in episode 1. With Anthony Hopkins, they use their heavy hitters with their deep voices that trigger your vibrations of your truthful reality, and he has this fatherly, kind of like what how they use Morgan Freeman's voice in documentaries. This is to make it real for you, and they make it so that this becomes your perspective. This becomes your reality. So Anthony Hopkins is one of the programmers of the entire system. So they use him. They're obviously selling the evolution program, or the monkey evolution program, and the transhumanism evolution program. That's instantaneously in there. So obviously that's being sold and everything on the television. It's a de-evolution program. Sex and guns. So sex, guns, and war. So that's basically what the Western world is about. Sex and guns. So this goes into the animalistic nature of the human experience as it is today and as it used to be. So this is how you get to that one point of experience, and then you start to de-evolve, because you need to have, like, sex in itself is not bad, but once you turn it into some kind of animalistic just experience, then you're taking the humanity out of the sexual interaction, and it just becomes some kind of toy. There's nothing to it. There's no connection to it anymore. So this is where humanity kind of maxes out and peaks out, because the experience of sex is a divine experience, but when you take that divine experience and then you just kind of you're not present there, you turn it into a video game, then that's where you're no longer engaging in the human experience, and you're pretty much engaging in an animalistic, synthetic experience as a whole. The primal nature of the West world, of going in and seeing all these prostitutes, the guns, you can go shoot anything. That's basically what the system is designed to do with the war and the mainstream media. It desensitizes you to lock yourself into this primal vibration of experiencing your reality, and as long as you're an animal, you can be controlled. No different than like dogs and cats. You're being domesticated. And I went into this experience, or this interpretation, in a previous video of why cats and dogs are in the house, and the control nature of that and how that affects us subconsciously. No different than like zoos and controlling the world. But if you can control like a dog and a cat, or specifically for this, because cats are pretty independent, but a dog needs to be broken, and then that once you break that dog, it becomes your slave, and that's pretty much what happens. So that sets the foundation for the government treating you like a dog and treating your kids like dogs. Because you're broken in the public education system, you're broken with the fiat currency system, you're broken with the maritime admiralty system, the legal name system, subconsciously broken by the way you perceive your experience, and then you're bombarded by the so-called positive nature of this sexual, toy-driven Western civilization, and that's the artificial reality as a whole. This is what Westworld actually is, locking you into these dopamine programs of disempowerment and pretty much like Christmas mentalities. Just toys and guns. Toys, sex, and guns. And it's all based upon death. If you're having sex with a robot, then you're not going to produce life. You're engaging in, it's death. You're alive by yourself, but when you're alive and you're by yourself in that moment, you're not really alive. You're having the illusion of life because you have no connection. So this is why a lot of relationships are all physically based. It's all about just sex and what somebody looks like and so on and so forth, and there's no depth of connection there. And then when those two empty people come together, they bring in empty babies, and then the babies just perpetuate the program and keep the system going on in forever, buying into the program and never challenging the system as a whole. So this is how this system creates dead souls, or creates a system to where you do not access the depths of your soul, and you have the illusion of a soul, but you're really living a dead experience. So locking you deeper into the physical reality by the bombardment of sexualizing women, sexualizing entertainment, the pornography industry. Everything that is mainstream in this reality is to densify you and lock you into the conscious reality and lock you out of the subconscious reality. The subconscious reality is your dream, which is actually empowering. And it can break the grid. It breaks the lines. Once you get into the nonlinear, it not only breaks the linear constructs, but it also allows you to activate the linear constructs that are beneficial for your reality, the balances of nature. So one of the main things that are said always in that show, Westworld, is do you ever have questions about your reality? This is what they always ask these robots. Do you ever have questions about your reality? Same thing goes for humans. Do you ever have questions about your reality? No. People are going to say no. They think whatever it is that the people on the TV tell them. Same thing goes with flat earth. People are having difficulty with questioning their reality because it's so extreme by going into this. So that's the question that they ask you, and then within the Westworld, one of the things that those robots say over and over again is you can be whatever you want. You literally live in a world for that experience where you can just shoot people, you can have sex with anything. They have the gay agenda that's promoted in there by saying, oh, well, it's just robots, not really a man having sex with a man or a woman having sex. This is all subconsciously being programmed into you and your children and the mass consciousness as a whole to maintain this separation from nature as a whole. Another quote that was in there says, the real world is chaos and accident. I think Anthony Hopkins actually said that in order to give an example of, how he's creating order out of chaos by building the Westworld, and seemingly controlling that chaos with his programming skills and all that stuff. So that accident part is to trigger the evolution program, the Big Bang. And you hear that, and then that's where it goes. It's chaos and accident, and people say, "Oh yeah, I can see how that is." Well, because the news told you so. So you only see one side of the reality. Another thing Anthony Hopkins says in there is, in order to play God, you have to be acquainted with the devil. And then he says, the perfect world. So that's what they're trying to sell you. But you're bombarded by chaos, and they say that they're trying to create the perfect world by adjusting the evolutionary process to technology and so on and so forth. This is happening in the real world, and they reference it directly in the Westworld. So they sell you that they're building a system that's challenging the devil, that's working against us, and we're gonna break the code because we're working with the Christmas Jesus, and the Thanksgiving Americana people who are spreading Western civilization and democracy across the world to make this place a better place. All this stuff is being subconsciously programmed into you, simultaneously programming the idea of the future. The way the so-called powers that be want this future to look, act like, and feel. So the emotional body is being triggered by the robots and the experiencers. So this is how you can see the codes being broken with dreams and the emotional body of one emotion being in contrast to another emotion. And that makes these robots start to think, hey, something's wrong here. And they challenge the experience. So I got a feeling that's what the rest of the show is going to be about after seeing these first few episodes. So in the rest of those episodes, somebody says something about, do they dream? They're not programmed to dream. That's just like people who are alive today. If you get into your dreams, you start to get into questioning the physical reality as a whole. Not to say that the physical reality doesn't have a purpose. It's just that if you are asleep and you are having an experience as you, that place is equal to what the physical reality is, the you that you are in the physical reality. And to get into an empowered space, you have to balance yourself and really understand, and overstand what the conscious and the subconscious reality actually is, what your dreams actually are, what the balances of this physical reality actually are, what the balances of the duality program actually is, the electric and the magnetic, the yin, the yang, the masculine and the feminine. This is why all this gay agenda stuff is going on. Transhumanism is going on, and locking you further and further into the heliocentric program. It's to keep you in that artificial chaos. So what else is there? So they have blips, they have glitches of dreams in their reality, and that actually causes these programs to shut down, to glitch out, to start to not act like they're programmed to do. This is why I focus so much on reconnecting with your dreams, because it'll literally start to open up a doorway to yourself, an organic doorway to yourself. There's nothing there. Nobody can teach you more about yourself than you can about yourself, and your dreams are a doorway into yourself. Just one way. Um, Another thing that's repeated in the Westworld is this is a vacation, so you can see that as the physical reality being a vacation, or an illusion of a vacation from your soul. And the rules of this physical reality can be compared to the rules of the Westworld, which pretty much is there are no rules. If you're a real person, you can't die. You can kill anything in there. You can have sex with anything in there. You can have all these prefabricated experiences where you're catching criminals and cowboys and robbing banks and all kinds of stuff. This is what this is. This series is pretty deep. That's why I said I'm gonna try to cut this off real quick, this video, in a little bit. But yeah, this is a deep documentary. I would recommend checking it out, not for the entertainment value, but although it is entertaining, but more so to decipher it, or to see it from a different perspective, to see it how it's being sold. Because that's how I watch everything. This is how I watch even these new movies that come out. It's like, what are they trying to tell these kids with the Lego movie? What are they trying to tell these kids with the Frozen movie? What are they trying to tell these kids with all this stuff? What are they trying to tell these adults? How is this program being sold to the subconscious reality and the conscious reality? It makes it a little easier to digest. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. Like, they're just killing people for sport. They're just having sex for sport in there. Yeah, it's like a vacation from your higher self. So what you can see, the physical reality is like, it's like a vacation for your higher self. But you can't be on vacation forever. If you stay on vacation forever, it's not a vacation anymore. It's like I heard somebody saying something about being locked in a mansion. You can have a mansion. You can live in a mansion, but even that can become a prison at some point. So this is what, over generations of generations, being locked down by this power grid, has become sold to us as a vacation, but it's actually programmed to be a prison, a happy prison. These robots have memories of old experiences that actually trigger these glitches in their current reality. So this could be what your dreams do for your current reality. You have helping you to decipher this experience in yourself, to get closer to yourself. Everything that it has ever existed still exists right now. Every memory, every experience still exists. It's not based upon the general understanding of time or the basic nature of your memory. It's a matter of you being able to tune into it or not. So yeah, the dreams are another way to get into that and reconnect. This is why, in reference to that statement, memories of the old experience triggering glitches, this is why your ancestors are demonized. This is why your ancestors, the indigenous and the aboriginal people, are put into this box of primitive and savage. So you don't connect with those older experiences. You don't connect with those relationships to nature, and you actually glorify and worship the nature of the reality as it's sold to you by the so-called powers that be. And through each episode, they have this eyeball that is, I think the director's name is over the eyeball in the credits in the beginning. So this is just how you perceive your reality. I mean, there's so much information in that one series that I'd recommend checking it out if you're interested into just determine. I wouldn't recommend watching it at all if you don't if you're not at all um, guided to watch any of that stuff. This is only for people who would like to start to see how this program works. If you don't want to, then don't. I do it because it helps me see further and further into how they're trying to code people, so I can disassemble it and share with people how this stuff works. So that's basically all I had for this video. Like I said, I'll do some follow-ups in the future. These false flags and all this stuff that's going on is just like the mainstream version of how we are being programmed. Our emotional body, our dreams are being locked down, and it goes all the way to the top, from the way you are born and stamped on a birth certificate to the way you die and your death certificate, and everything in between is monetized and locked into a power system. And the heliocentric program is no different than that. Your NASA getting $50 million a day is no different. It is all part of a control grid and a system that is designed to keep you from questioning your reality and to keep you from challenging the system and empowering yourself. So, thank you for joining me, and until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.